Roleplaying is dead. Bloxburg is supposed to be a roleplay game, but there's only 17% of players left that still consistently roleplay in Bloxburg. Why? Did Bloxburg give up on roleplayers, or did roleplayers give up on Bloxburg? In 2016, Bloxburg launched as a game where you can build your own house and roleplay. Sounds a lot like Sims. And since Sims was primarily a roleplay game, roleplaying was also very popular in Bloxburg. Almost every single day that I would join Bloxburg in 2019, there would be like 1 or even 2 roleplays going on in the same server. Then came 2020. In April of 2020, a game called Brookhaven launched. This game took over Roblox. Within 6 months of launching, they had 200,000 players. Within less than a year, they were breaking records. So what is Brookhaven exactly, and what does that have to do with Bloxburg roleplaying? Well, let me tell you. If we look at the description of both games, own and live in amazing houses, design and build the place of your dreams, drive cool vehicles, take a ride for a spin, explore the city, grab a quick bite in town, be whoever you want to be. The choice is yours. Look, I don't know about you, but these 2 games sound very similar to me. Except for one thing. Brookhaven is called Brookhaven RP. RP stands for roleplay. Connect the dots. Brookhaven has got 100% of its players to be role players, while Bloxburg is a building and role player game, so it has 50% role players and 50% builders. So now the Bloxburg role players who don't really care about building will go to Brookhaven, since there's a much higher chance of finding a fellow role player there. Which leads to our next issue. If Bloxburg players go to Brookhaven to roleplay, the people who still stayed in Bloxburg to roleplay will find a harder time finding other roleplayers because the percentage of roleplayers are going down in Bloxburg. And since these Bloxburg players can't find people to roleplay, they'll either leave the game, go play Brookhaven, go play Adopt Me, whatever it is, or just quit in general. And so the cycle continues, less roleplayers equals less roleplayers, and it's been 4 years now. The percentage is really low compared to builders. The 17% that I mentioned in the start of the video, this was a poll that I did. And granted, I'm a building YouTuber, so it makes sense that people who vote on my polls are mostly builders. So we're just gonna up the number to like 20%. If there's only 20% of Bloxburg players that consistently roleplay, that's only 2 to 3 people per server, assuming the server has 12 players. That's the person looking to roleplay and the other roleplayer, and maybe sometimes one other person. But according to the poll, most of these roleplayers still build a little. So maybe that one other role player in that server is building that day, and there's no other role players in your server. So Bloxburg probably knows at this point that the roleplay community is dying down with Brookhaven's rise and everything else. So what do they do about it? Well, nothing. At least, not much. Before we get into the content creator partnership program, let's talk about content creators in the Bloxburg space in general. If we look at top Bloxburg content creators, there's only a couple that consistently roleplay right now. Like, yeah, there's a couple that used to roleplay or roleplay very, very little. Obviously, this can mean a lot of things. Since Bloxburg mostly has builders now, they'll probably watch more building channels, helping building channels grow. Or creators who used to roleplay and do some building content found that their building content does better, and they just decided to ditch roleplaying in general. So because the audience influences the creator as much as the creator influences the audience, I feel like the lack of roleplay content in top creators is kind of a collective fault. So if we look at the content creator partnership program, let's just call it CCPP. First of all, wonderful program, super excited for it. Got creators of all different sizes, 16 creators in general. Only 3 of them consistently roleplay. Obviously, we're in the very early days of this program. I'm sure they have so many plans in the future, including probably adding more creators and hopefully more roleplayers. But the fact that the initial launch of this program didn't include more roleplayers probably meant that expanding the roleplay community wasn't really a concern for them with this program right now. Obviously, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. Maybe they did invite a bunch of roleplayers and they all just collectively denied. The other thing is Bloxburg fan accounts on Twitter and Instagram. I don't think that this is Bloxburg's fault, but I have never seen a roleplay fan account. And maybe this is just me living under a rock, and maybe there are some great Bloxburg roleplay fan accounts out there. But the fact that I haven't seen one probably means that majority of the Bloxburg fan accounts are just build showcases and updates. I don't know what a roleplay fan account would look like. I personally have no plans of starting one, so it's not something that I've thought about a lot, but I'm sure some creative people out there could figure one out and grow it successfully. Bloxburg is obviously one of the very few Roblox games that is actually a paid game. So if I was a Bloxburg developer and I was thinking between money and expanding the roleplay community, I would choose money. Obviously, because it's much easier to just click a few buttons to make a game paid than figure out all these strategies. But because it's a paid game, they missed out on a lot of opportunities to attract more players into their game, especially when it comes to Roblox. They missed out on opportunities to draw attention to themselves because Brookhaven kind of overshadowed the role-playing aspect of Bloxburg. So if I was a Bloxburg developer and I was choosing between money and attention, I would probably choose attention, not because I'm a narcissistic, but because attention can bring you so many other things like power, influence, and money. But obviously it's been a paid game ever since it started 8 years ago, and it's one of the most popular games on Roblox, so clearly things had worked out just fine for Bloxburg. And so for people who don't already have Bloxburg and have no aspirations to building, they really have no reason to buy Bloxburg if Brookhaven's right there, it's free, and has more role players. Brookhaven's game only really has one main objective, which is roleplay. Yet it has the single highest visits on Roblox at 43 billion, and at one point had 1.1 million players online. So clearly the concept of role-playing isn't outdated, it's just role-playing in Bloxburg. Granted, Brookhaven is much easier to understand than Bloxburg. I mean, it has less features and it is so much easier for younger kids to play. Bloxburg has building, role-playing, skills, working, like all this other stuff, a lot more features. There's actually, if you think about it, quite the learning curve. Also, I keep mentioning about Brookhaven because I do believe that it is the #1 reason for Bloxburg roleplay's community's downfall. There's a lot of reasons why Bloxburg isn't prioritizing the roleplay community as much as they used to. Maybe because they don't see themselves as the roleplay game that they used to. Maybe they see themselves more as a building game. Or maybe they are currently prioritizing the current community, which is majority builders. But assuming that they do want to grow to be more of a roleplay game again, I have some theoretical solutions. First, I just think that they need more players in general. Obviously, the game is going free soon, which I think is going to be huge for Bloxburg. There's probably going to be more players, and some Brookhaven players are probably going to try Bloxburg and see if they can get over that learning curve. And since less role players equals less role players, more role players probably means more role players. I also know that there's a lot of people who want to get into Bloxburg but don't have Robux or don't want to pay for it. So I think probably some of them are role players and will roleplay in Bloxburg. The other thing is that they should work more towards expanding the roleplay community. For example, adding more role players to the Content Creator Partnership Program, the CCPP. But in terms of the game's feature itself, I think it's done a really good job of keeping a balance of role-playing and building updates. Like if we look at November 2023, just a few updates ago, they had a full update dedicated to role players. And also we know that they're revamping the town, hopefully adding a school. So I'll give them kind of a pass on that aspect of the role-playing community. So I don't think it's the features and the functions of the game that contributes to why role-playing is so much less popular now in Bloxburg. I think it's the promotion of these features, right? So after the update videos and whatever, we don't really hear people talking about the new family tree, the animations, the kid-themed furniture and whatever. I talked about having more Bloxburg roleplay relating fan accounts. Now that Bloxburg's team is bigger, they could probably start their own roleplay account and kind of model how one should look like and encourage others to start their own. Right now, people are excited for every single update, including the role player updates, but simply because it's an update. Like, it's cool to have, not because they could use it to roleplay. So to answer the initial question, did Bloxburg give up on role players, or did role players give up on Bloxburg? Both. Obviously, this is just my theory on role-playing in Bloxburg. I'm just here to represent me and my opinions, and I'm just one of the millions of players out there who play Bloxburg. So let me know your theories and your opinions on role-playing and if you agree with my stance. Click here to subscribe, then click here to watch my Bloxburg builds. See you there!